I went ahead and did one of the tray boxes for inside the box itself, and as you can see, it fits very nicely. Right now it's not really together. It has a couple elastic bands around it, but you can get an idea. Now, ran into a problem. We were going to be doing rabbets for these corners, but because of the coving, it presented an issue, so ended up having to go with just miters again at 45 degrees. Not a big deal, just was hoping to incorporate another type of joinery. But we'll have to find another project to do that on, so now I just got to finish up the rest of these, and we'll be good to go. And we can start doing the dados for the bottom panels that will go in the trays and the box itself. As you can see, it is slightly smaller than the box. It is a 1/4 inch on each side, so there's lots of room for it to move around. It's not going to get binded. So you don't want a very tight fit. You want to be able, for them, whoever, to be able to get their fingers in there and actually lift the box out without any difficulty. So let's get cutting the rest of these miters, and then we will go and do the dados around the bottom of all of these boxes to accept our bottom plates. Okay, now as far as cutting these miters on the table saw here, it's the exact same setup as when we did the box miter cuts themselves. So you take a ruler, measure up from the point where your blade just comes out of the table, and move your ruler to where your measurement is. In our case, for the smaller box here, it's 3.5. So I have the inside of my tooth on the 3.5 point. Then I take my pencil, and on my sacrificial fence here, I just make a little mark, and then I can then take my small combination square, put it down, draw my line up, and then I can put my stop block there, and I know that all my 3.5 pieces will be that same size. And then for the next length of cut, which will be 4 inches on the other sides of the box, we'll repeat the process again and move our stop block to the 4-inch mark, which I've already done, and then make those miter cuts. So let's cut this last one up to the 3.5 mark, and then I don't think I really need to show much more because this is the exact same process. Double check your measurement, make sure you're on your mark, and we are. So I do believe this one's good to go. Now I have two 3.5s. Now these are the smaller inner trays that will sit on top of this big tray. When you take away the 1/4 inch for spacing to be able to pick the boxes out, we're left with 3.5 by 4 inches. And this one here is 7.25 by 4 inches, so should be pretty nice. So yeah, I'll keep going. I'll get these cut up, and then we'll set up for our dado cuts, or rabbet cuts, whatever you want to call them, that they will accept the panel, the bottom panel, which will be the actual inner bottom of the box, and the trays. Okay, so I have all the miters done for one of our smaller boxes, and while I had the 4-inch stop block on, I cut the two 4 inches for the second smaller box. I have all our miter cuts done. I've got all the boxes held together by elastics, just so we can see how everything fits. Elastics are great for miter joints and box joints alike, to just piece it together and hold it together so you can get an idea. So there you can see we have our two upper boxes, and then we can take them out, and we have our lower box, and then we take that out, and we would have the bottom of the box, which we haven't made yet. Everything's looking pretty good here. These boxes are just, you can see they're slightly above the height of this box, and that's because we are going to have a cherry trim along this top edge here, if you remember back from the plans we did in the first video. So, with that said, we're going to know everything we know everything fits properly and everything looks really nice. We can actually go on to doing the dados that will be holding, or that the bottom of the box will recess into. As we are going to do our dados, I found this scrap piece of oak plywood, which is going to be the bottom. I'm not too worried about how the plywood looks because it's going to be covered in a material anyways. So now, I set my fence away from the blade, the thickness of this wood, and that will allow us to recess this. I did a test piece on an extra piece of the molding, cut off, and you can see how this is going to work. It's just going to fit in here and just give it some extra fitting room. Pretty easy stuff. So, I guess we'll get cutting. Okay, let's cut these dados. Now remember, it can be tricky to remember which side is which as far as top and bottom. You don't want this dado to be on the top of it, you want it to be on the bottom. So mark your bottoms. This is the side you'll want against your fence. Then you just have to run it over. Now, because this plywood actually isn't an 1/8 of an inch, it's 3/16, we're going to have to make 2 passes. The first one will be the actual depth that we need, and the second one will just be a cleanup pass to clean up the remainder of the material at the end of our workpieces. And line up our blade with the remainder of the material. Think that'll work? So, alright, that cleaned it up. Left a little paper thin layer on which we can break off without much problem. So with that said, I'll go ahead and cut the rest of these up. So when I was making my final pass to clean up these little rabbets, dados, whatever you want to call them, I heard my blade actually hitting my fence, and I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that metal on metal is not good for it. So, in the effort of saving my saw blade and my fence, put a sacrificial fence on. First I brought my fence over so that the inside of my blade was lined up with the edge of my board. And that essentially created a rabbet like what's on these, so that I could actually move my sacrificial fence over enough that the blade is actually sitting underneath of it. So that allows me to get my workpiece close enough, or get the blade close enough to the edge of my workpiece that I don't actually have to make a third pass to clean up or break off those little pieces. So sacrificial fence just over top of the blade is good. It works good. So let's finish up the last of these cuts. I'm going to cut my plywood to the proper dimensions, which with you, put your box together and determine what the inside size should be. Remember to measure on the inside of your rabbet so that you have an accurate measurement and as close as you can. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect because it will be hidden underneath the tray, just as close as you can get it. Okay, now you can see what it's starting to look like. There is our bottom for a tray, and they just fit in these rabbets that we created. See the little ledge there, right here, there's just a tiny ledge that these fit into, and we will glue them in when the time comes. So that in, put it around, voila, you got a box. Okay, so as you can see, I have got the dados cut for our box pieces, and it's going to fit together something like this. These dados, the base will just slide into them. I haven't got the width of the base plate done here. As you can see, she doesn't quite line up. Now how I got this far, all I'm going to do is measure from where the dado cut begins and where it ends. And in my case, it's 5 inches from here to here. So that is going to be the width of our bottom panel here. So I'm going to rip that, and then we'll take a look at it once finished. Now for the length of our base plate, same idea, except now that we can get it in and we have 2 corners all squared up, we can actually just put it together and put a mark right where those dados end there. So we'll go and cut those now. Remember, if you can mark something without having to measure it, go ahead, but you make sure that that is an accurate way of doing it, or you will end up with a miscut. And voila, she's put together. I tried to keep this nice, beautiful. I think it flows very good with the rest of the inside of the box. So, as you can see, it is inset in the bottom of the box. It has a tiny bit of play. Not much, about a 1/16 of an inch, which you want to leave in there. I don't think I'm even going to glue the bottom in. Just to allow for extraction, oh man, contraction and expansion as the wood breathes over the years. We don't want something breaking because of it. So, there it is. There we have our main box ready to go, basically. We have our main tray that sits down inside there. Okay, it went down in. Remember, nothing's glued yet, and she's just held together by one single elastic, so it is kind of iffy-tiffy. And we have one of our smaller trays. And another smaller tray. And there goes the bottom of it. But you get the idea. Now, this is going to be the final height of the top of the box. Next episode, we will be putting our cherry topper on here. Then we'll probably go on to the making of the lid. We have the bottom on. We have our base molding just over here. Which, now that we have this all together, I'm going to double check, and we'll probably have to do a little bit of cleaning up. I cut them just about 1/16 of an inch long. Our jewellery box build, which has come along quite nicely. We have 3 inner trays in our main box, all of which sporting this coving styling. And also, we have the board, we have our moulding, which also skirts around the bottom of our jewelry box. Just like that. Looks kind of complicated. It's really not. It's just a lot of planning, measuring, and taking your time. Double check, measure twice, cut once. Because the point of it is to get as much information out there to make it as easy, exciting, fun, and educational as possible for you and everybody else watching. Okay, so thanks for watching KC Woodworks for You. I really appreciate you coming to watch what I present. Remember, this is for you and the other people that come to watch these videos. The whole point is to try to inspire you to do something creative and get you going in the wood. The wood will work for you as long as you let it. Please don't forget to leave comments below. I want to know what you think, what you would like to change, or what you'd like to see in the future. Also, hit that subscribe button. That way you'll catch the upcoming videos for this build. There will be a couple more as we go through and finish this box up. Just bear with me. I'm trying to get it done. Trying to get caught up on a few other projects, including my mother's kitchen, which we have to do baseboard for. So in between this jewelry box build, we might have a couple mini-sodes, like the baseboard for my mother's kitchen. Also got some other projects for our customers, just small little things. One of them being what's it called? A paracord bracelet jig. It's basically like the loom bands, but you use paracord instead. And it's very simple, but it's the kind of thing that anybody can make, and actually can be enjoyed by you and your kids or your grandkids or whoever. So stay tuned, subscribe, watch for upcoming builds. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. There's all sorts of things on there. Everything KC Woodworks for You, and I'm trying to share some builds from other people that I've seen and really enjoyed throughout the internet. So, that said, keep watching, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next episode.